Okay, welcome to the Scholastic Town Hall meeting. I am Sunil Veeramantri. I'm co-chair along with Beatrice Marinello. Is also co-chair. Most of the council members are present. We have Judith Torre, Danny Rode, John Rockefeller, Elliot Neff, and Robbie Adamson plans to be joining shortly. We have an agenda. If Judith, if you could bring the agenda up, we'll follow the agenda.
It's actually Carol.
Carol, okay. We are going to speak about topics 1 and 2 first, then entertain a few questions, and then we'll take each of the other topics separately and entertain some questions on each of those topics. So Carol, you have the controls.
Hi, I'm Elliot Neff, and on the Scholastic Council, happy to introduce this topic. Thanks for having us here. And we'd like to talk about this chess coach certification program of USCF. As part of the council, I co-chair a subcommittee that has been looking into this topic and what we can do to continually improve and meet the needs. The first step I want to talk about is a little bit of the background and the original purpose behind the 5 levels of the chess coach certification program. You can find details on the USCF website if you are not familiar with it. And the primary purpose that came behind this program was really to provide to gain more school and district support by having an official certification that went a long ways with supporting the school districts. At the same time, there are now some challenges to consider with the changing environment. And those in particular that we've been looking at have to do with, and I'll point us back to the USCF mission and vision that have been really refined and made public through the website. Thank you. Great new website, Carol. Good to see the launch of that. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, to review those elements of the vision, the goals, and the core values, with the purpose of trying to increase the use of chess in education, to promote the transformative power of chess, and these different elements. It's important to engage teachers, schools, educators, as well as chess coaches and chess professionals in furthering the benefits of this game and making sure that it's equitable and accessible by as many people as possible. With that in mind, there are 3 levels. The first 3 levels with specific testing, then there's 2 higher levels that really could be refined much further. There's been a number of individuals have come with suggestions and saying we would like to see this revamped, considered further. And so what happened is I started co-chairing this subcommittee prior to the COVID situation. And then with what happened, things went on hold for a while as everybody was figuring out what's going on. We've gathered a small group of individuals who are part of the subcommittee, and we're considering some possibilities. I want to touch on those briefly. A couple of elements in particular would have to do with the professional development side. But let's first talk about, in terms of modifications to the levels, who is the audience we're seeking to serve here? And some of that audience has to do with, again, the teachers in schools. Then there are the chess coaches who are starting out and need training in becoming a better educator through chess. Then, of course, we have the chess professionals who in the current levels would be recognized under levels 4 and 5, but it's really a big gap from 1, 2, 3 to 4 and 5. The criteria within there, while there's testing for first 3 levels, there's nothing for 4 and 5. There are no elements of continuing education and professional development. So we've been considering the possibilities here. It is still in the fairly early stage of gathering input and feedback on the possibilities. And this is really going to tie into the next topic about the different seminars and workshops and so on. So I just wanted to tee this up here. Ideally, we would like to open up for feedback from the community of the importance of having these certifications to serve your communities, what you've heard there, elements that you would suggest seeing incorporated, and And then I would like to move this over to Beatrice to take on the next slide where we're talking about the seminars, and then we can save some time for questions after that. So Beatrice?
Thank you, Elliot. Obviously, I mean, this is a very important topic. In recent years, states and national policies have focused more attention on the issue of quality teachers. I mean, just teacher quality, which means that the schools, they're looking for ways to enhance education or to set up systems that the schools can use to help teachers to continue learning and improving their skills over time. Chess has been increasingly getting into the school system, which provides us with a lot of opportunities to basically be part of the educational system. But at the same time, there is an important challenge, which is to elevate the quality of the teachers, or even to teach school teachers how to teach chess. So basically, there are two different aims there: working with actual teachers, with chess coaches, and also with chess teachers. That means that we need to define the mission and the goals, and we need to create resources for people to learn about, how to teach chess and how to organize events, how to deliver chess as part of the curriculum in a classroom setting and in a school setting. And for that, I think it's appropriate to think that the US Chess should have a page dedicated to promote conferences, workshops, seminars, courses, and should offer many of opportunities for people to choose and select what is accommodating for their schedule, and we can turn this into a professional development opportunity. The other thing that we included here in the agenda is create project-based learning programs. And basically the thinking here is that we have to specialize. So if the goal is to teach coaches who are in level 1 or teachers, we need to have very specific curriculum for that group and so on. Same thing for people who wants to learn how to organize events for chess. So it has to be a project-based program that emphasizes on learning, how to find resources, developing a network, and obviously providing the professional development opportunities for those people to be part of it. At the same time, the US Chess needs to assess this, needs to reflect about it, how we can improve, what works, what doesn't work, how we can, grow. And finally, we need to get feedback from the community, from the teachers, by, surveying them, but also by attending conferences where we can talk to teachers about this, and then make the appropriate revisions. So basically, it's a work in progress, and I know that it will take a long time, but I think we need to start somewhere, Elliot.
Thank you, Beatrice. So together we've co-chaired this subcommittee. Excited about the possibilities, but recognize that it's a big work, an important one, and one that has long-lasting implications in the Scholastic chess community. And so that's the quick overview here. What we'd love to do is open it up for some questions that we can then take a few here before we moved into the next topics. So if you have a question, you should be able to raise your hand, I believe.
I don't see any questions. Do you see anybody?
Yes, Rachel, I see your hand up here. Go ahead. If you click your unmute, you should be able to now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, Elliot.
Hi, Rachel.
You again. I missed the first few minutes. What is the name of the subcommittee?
This is for the certification program, the 5 levels.
The one you and Beatrice are talking about.
Correct.
And what is the name of it?
The coach certification subcommittee.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be asking about the specific levels. No problem. And I see Christina in the unmute. Christina, you need to hit the unmute your audio. You're still muted.
I got it.
There we
Okay,
go.
sorry. So, I mean, I'm on the subcommittee, and obviously, like you said, it's been on hold for a while, but what I'm hearing is kind of a mixture of two things. I think is my affiliate uses the coach certification program. We actually think that, you know, the taking the tests and stuff is kind of the tests that exist currently are kind of a joke. But we use it for the purpose of being able to go to the schools and say, all my coaches are certified by US Chess, and that means something to the school, which you said is what this is about. But what I also heard you say was, you know, it's US Chess maybe looking at getting a little more involved in developing resources so that teachers can teach chess, because there's definitely a big shortage of chess coaches across the country, especially they're in pockets, you know, in different places. And, you know, one of the things our affiliate does is help teachers run chess programs. And we usually use, there's nothing out there that's like a set standard. So we usually use Chess Kid, or we're starting to use Think Like a King now from the chess school, where we can get the teachers set up in a way that they can teach their own students if they can't afford, you know, to bring a coach in or something like that. So was I hearing that that's something that US Chess is also getting involved with, maybe standardizing a little bit more about a package that can be used to teach teachers how to teach chess?
Tina, thanks for asking, but I would clarify, I can't speak for USCF. As a Scholastic Council, we give recommendations. And as a subcommittee, we're gathering the input, putting ideas together and presenting them for consideration. And it's just our current view is that we believe it's important to consider the possibilities of CEU credits and different opportunities for teachers to gain these credits. That would do two things. One is in a school district, it means that they could get paid time off to get these credits when they attend events, could be done online. And we also believe that beyond the benefits to teachers and schools, that an ongoing education of some kind would be of great value to continually improve in these various areas, from a chess teacher and an organizer and a professional coach. So what that looks like ultimately and where this goes ultimately, that's why I say, to me, it's a very big and complex project, but an important one to be considered in the space. So hopefully that helps, Tina. And let me go to, I see several hands up here. Let's just go down the list. Jay Stallings, you're next on the list here. I hit the unmute. Can you? There we go.
Hey guys, it's wow, it's sure great to see all my friends. Miss you guys a bunch. So good to see everybody. I'm really thrilled about this town hall. A really great idea. I wanted to ask, as far as the certification, how far have you guys gotten? Have you looked at other programs like the training program they have for AYSO coaches? And back in 2015, Gene Hoffman asked me to look into this, and I spent a few days with the team of coaches, and we found that the Golf Association has a program that trains coaches at different levels also for youth golf, and so I saw copying that as a base idea on how to get started and such, but I don't know how far along you guys have gotten.
Hey Jay, really appreciate that, and I'll jump right in here, Beatrice, if you don't mind. First, thank you for volunteering to join the subcommittee. I'll make sure you're added to it. And two, the response is we are very early stage. We were getting started prior to all of these things happening. Some circumstances, my personal side with a family member getting cancer and such led to some elements that delayed some of the progress. And so it's still early stage. And ASO I am somewhat familiar with. I've met the executive director before. Exactly. I don't think we have to reinvent a wheel all the time. would love to bring in, and that's part of the purpose of making the awareness here. So we'd love to bring the community involvement into these ideas. And I love the direction that the USCF mission, vision, and the clarity of that has become. And I think that aligns with this opportunity. Now I'll even add to that with the online space that we are in. What a tremendous opportunity if we utilize it. When teachers are now globally used to doing training online versus in person. Imagine the impact if we have these credits in place and a process that can facilitate, teachers' growth from knowing nothing about chess to being competent at leading clubs throughout the country. So thanks, Jay.
Great, thanks, Elliot.
And more than half seriously, if you're okay with it, love to have you join the subcommittee. Drop me a note. Next person on the list I have here is Chris Prosser.
Yes, in Nashville, we're getting one of the Chess Kids accounts, and that's through Todd Andrews and National Chess Center. We're partnering with the school system for about 40,000 elementary kids. I'm wondering how much this committee wants to reach out to like the National Education Association, who already has national platforms for seminars and professional development. They could really be a good partner for us in getting out to the local school systems and getting that teacher development and in-service. And I think that would be a good tool for us to reach out to the National Education Association.
Can I answer, Elliot? Chris, we have done that in the past. We have attended NEA conventions, the American Federation for Teachers convention, the Gifted and Talented convention. So basically what we need to do, we need to go there and show chess, set up a booth, talk to these organizations, hopefully to be, to get chess people to become speakers at the conference, which is not easy. But I think that work needs to be done, because once you put chess in front of educators, they understand immediately the value of chess and education because of the connection between chess and the brain and child development. So it's not a difficult sell. The question is how to insert it into the educational system. And that takes time.
We have plenty of volunteers that would be willing to go. I would be one of them that would be willing to go to our state education association conventions and do a booth. So maybe we can reach out in that way to members that are teachers who would be willing to go to their state organizations and have a booth or an in-service at their state convention.
Thank you, Chris. That's certainly something, a resource that we should use. Beatrice and Elliot, I think we have time for 3 more questions on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Sunil. And I would invite Chris as well to join the subcommittee if you're willing to, or at least connect over email. We've got a number of hands up. I'm going to go in the order in which I saw them listed here, and let's see how short we can keep these to make it get through. Dwayne Barber.
Okay, thank you very much for hosting this. It's been very valuable, I'm sure, at the beginning here, and it will continue to be further as important. I contacted US Chess a number of years ago and I said, I'm going to the NEA convention. Can I set up a booth? And I did. I collected 432 names of teachers who wanted further information. I submitted that to the office. Nothing was ever done. Now, that's not a criticism of necessarily the office might have been busy or not busy or whatever, but it's an observation that if we have a presence there, that I would hope that we can find the mechanisms and the capabilities to be able to say, hey, these are contacts. We probably could have gotten 80 or more affiliate memberships out of that. In addition to that, as many of you know, I created many years ago, yeah, it's that long ago, many years ago, something called the Guide to Scholastic Chess. May I offer the group, and especially the subcommittee, the following: the Guide to Scholastic Online Chess. And what we can do, in addition to the guide that's already out there that's been updated by Tim Just, and that is to build an online version that allows school teachers and others who may come across it to be able to use it as a valuable tool. We have these teachers who are within school districts and within state organizations who can really benefit from our visible presence in the various states. But I did want to share a couple of notes and answer questions about this as well. But I think, you know.
Thank you, Dwayne. Yeah, with our time, I really appreciate that. I love the suggestion. I've captured it here. And thank you for the work you're doing. So I appreciate that. Let's move to David.
Limited to 2 minutes per person, Elliot, for the last two.
Yep.
That's the first time.
Sunil? Sorry,
Yes.
what was that?
Go ahead. Just limit the last two questions to 2 minutes per person.
2 minutes, watching it closely. Okay, David Miller. There we go.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Now you are.
Yes.
When you were listing the stakeholders in people who are concerned about our certification committee, I think that we also need to consider parents as an important stakeholder. They're going to be concerned as to whether there is a rational basis for the various levels. So they're going to be concerned about police checks. And we need to consider that when people are advertising that they're U.S. Chess Federation certified coaches, that puts a certain amount of responsibility on the Federation to make sure that we are managing the program properly. I heard someone, I think Christine, say that the testing, it might be a joke. Since the program began, I have tried to formulate better questions for levels 1, 2, and 3. I've been unsuccessful. I might not be all that impressed by the questions the way they are now, but it would be a terrific benefit to the committee if people came up with testing questions. I couldn't do it, and I hope that others will take up that challenge. And finally, there are just about as many ways to teach chess as there are chess teachers. I recall a conversation I had with Sunil maybe 30 years ago, in which you said, there's more than one path to the top of the mountain. I'm concerned that we not endorse through our professional development program one approach and suggest that other approaches are inadequate.
David, thank you. Greatly appreciate the comments. Points well taken and noted and agreed. You know, it is a careful line to walk from the legal standpoint and the risk factor that USCF would need to look at and if they were to take action on recommendations as such, as well as the striving to walk that line where there's many, many ways to teach the same end goal. So appreciate that. I don't know that we can squeeze in the last one. I think we're out of time on the 2 minutes. I apologize for that.
No
So I'm going
Yes,
to
I believe so. So
lower
let's
other
move on
hands.
to the.
Thank you,
item.
everyone.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Beatrice. Let's move on to item 3 on the agenda.
All right. So I think between March, when the pandemic really came to a float, and now we are all trying to, as a chess community, come up with ways to keep our Scholastic community engaged in chess. So making sure, I think, to give them the opportunity, I think, is first and foremost what we need to be working on, both locally, at a state level, and at a national level across all phases. So that includes things like, you know, the local after-school class, the local private lesson that you can move online, camps where kids can be social with each other, make it fun for them, make it a 2 to 3 hour session for them, give them the opportunity, create, say, a 5-5 tournament for an hour on a Tuesday afternoon. I think one of the biggest things is that we have to keep the kids who want to play and keep them playing, because it's hard for all of them. However, chess is something that everyone can do from home. Not every activity is, in the sports, in the athletics world, it's been very hard for them, right? So chess can be competitive. It can also be fun. Let's make it fun for them. Let's create opportunities for them. Included in that are tournaments on a number of platforms. You can choose whichever platform you want to go on and create a 1-hour arena. You can create a tournament. For tournament directors, you should be wanting to get your events rated, and you should be trying to do that. Let's encourage the Scholastic community to play in US Chess online rated events. Just this upcoming weekend, the online elementary, which some of you have seen already, has over 2,000 kids who have been willing to sign up, and their families, to play just a simple game in 15 plus 5 tournament on a Saturday or a Sunday. So the opportunities are there. We have an opportunity here to not only keep our existing players from playing or to play, but we also have an opportunity to get new players as well. We're trying to create events for them. We're trying to create ideas for them. We have to keep everyone sort of in the mode of chess playing. And I think that that's the most important thing when it comes to keeping our children engaged. Now, I will leave this to Judith to talk about some of the things that she has done, and also with recruiting new chess players. Judith?
Welcome, everyone. My name is Judith Staray, and I'm very honored to be serving on the Scholastic Council. And chess is booming, as you could see on the August Chess Live cover. The online chess is booming, and everyone knows about all these streamers. So let's use this opportunity and recruit new chess players. There's no better time right now. Kids are in front of the computer anyway, and parents and teachers need and they are looking for opportunities to engage kids in a fun activity, something new that not only just screen time and game time, but helps their brain. So look out and reach out to organizations, not necessarily just other chess organizations, although that's the most trivial one, to reach out to other organizations across the nation who's doing already chess, but you can think about other opportunities. Boys and Girls Club across the country is really open to any collaborations. I know they are here in San Francisco Bay Area, but other opportunities, other after-school centers that are following guidelines that have no other opportunities. They are looking for new enrichment ways. Similar is the schools. Some of the schools will only open virtually, and they will not allow any after-school enrichment. So it's my experience that actually they are open to offer new organizations, an opportunity for new organizations. So reach out to your local schools, or reach out to your local school districts, as well as try other organizations who have a lot of Scholastic, a lot of kids and engaging kids, and then try to engage with them and try to set up a collaboration and use chess to unite community in these really hard times. I think Danny will start with the questions.
Yeah, so we will take a few minutes for anyone who has questions on the topic of trying to keep the Scholastic community engaged in chess. So, Dwayne, I see that you have your hand up, so go ahead.
There we go. Gotta find the little button there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'll apologize to anybody that's on this meeting, but I personally believe that the largest or most important group that really will come into focus just easily on online, and that's homeschooled kids. I taught school for 30 years. I'm not ignorant about what a classroom is, but the one thing I noticed as we were expanding chess the Scholastic community, was that there was no outreach by anyone, the office or anybody else. I'll make one last comment to give you an example. They hosted in Virginia a national homeschool association meeting. And so I thought, well, let's see if they did chess for the kids, something to do while the parents were at the meeting. So I scrolled down and I came across this entry and I said, oh, interesting. They do have a chess tournament. Well, that's exciting. So I looked and got more details. Come to find out that the chess event that was being offered at this national convention was capped at 60 students, no more. They wouldn't build it beyond that, I guess, because they didn't have the space. But the point is that if I were to ask all of the people in this meeting, how many homeschool organizations do you know of, either locally, by region, state, whatever? Maybe there's people that know this and I don't, but I would task this Scholastic community with plugging in to homeschool organizations and building that, because we know they will go online. We know they will get together and meet and have tournaments and become affiliates. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne, for the question and the suggestion. And I can second you. I personally saw so many more homeschooled groups reaching out to us to offer chess classes. And so I should encourage everyone every chess organization to see what kind of homeschooled system and corporations you have in your area or state level. And I know that Christina Schweitz is in contact with or has more experience with homeschool co-ops. And I know she's worked so hard to incorporate the homeschoolers into the Scholastic regulations. So if Christina, if you have any other feedback, if you can unmute yourself, thank you.
Yeah, and so Dwayne, the convention he's probably talking about is the HEAV convention, which is actually a state convention, but it's so enormous and so amazing that people come from all over the country to go to it. So it's actually our annual state convention. It got canceled this year. We actually had a booth and a workshop. So we got on the vendor list for Virginia. I was going to represent for our state affiliate. So our state affiliate got on the list to have a booth and a talk to parents about how to get their kids involved in competitive chess. And I also talked to them about having my affiliate take over the chess programming next year. This was when they were still going to have it this year, to do a real honest to God Swiss rated tournament in like some of the extra ballrooms with a lot more kids, because you know what they've done is it's championship chess running a cross round tournament right there on the exhibit floor, which is fun for the kids, but not really a tournament experience. So they were keenly interested in our organization, which is a C3, running a camp and a tournament for the kids as a kids program at the convention next year. So those are definitely, I completely agree, outstanding opportunities. And we have a ton of homeschoolers in our area that play because I homeschooled my kids. And so I had that outreach automatically. So I mean, my suggestion with the schools in general is please let them settle a little bit this year. Like they don't know what's going on right now. And so they've just within the last week or two been announcing and having the school boards approve the superintendent's recommendation. And so like in our area, they're going back 100% virtual for now because Virginia's cases are spiking. You know, and then they're like, oh, at some point, if we reach X, we'll go hybrid. And so I'm not really bothering my schools, even the ones that I've worked with in the past. We have about 17 schools. I'm kind of like, I'll touch base with the teacher and then back off. So I would just recommend letting the teachers kind of settle in. But Judith said something that I completely agree with. This is a tremendous opportunity to actually get chess into the curriculum as opposed to just an after-school club. And that's something that we're going to make a pet project this year to work with teachers. And I just posted on my Facebook page a talk I gave today to Hampton Roads homeschoolers about critical thinking through chess that we did on Facebook Live and Zoom. And I can provide that presentation to anybody who wants to use it and tweak it locally. But pitching to these parents around the country are terrified about what's happening to their kids' education right now. They don't think that the online is going to cut it. They think their kids are going to be behind, their gaps, they're scared. And so we plan to market to the parents hard to get their kids into, we're actually offering public classes online. So we're using that silver lining of the pandemic. And we have a C3, we had the platform, the coaches, everything already. So we launched a whole Zoom virtual chess center that's doing a grand opening ceremony on September 1st. And we're going to have a whole bunch of classes. And the one that's becoming already most popular is Think Like a King, because it's like a critical thinking curriculum. And we're actually buying a marketing package from a local kids marketing firm to get the word out there. And we're going to have giveaways like $100 in class credit and that kind of thing. And so you guys, there's so many possibilities right now. I'm not going to say to take advantage of the pandemic, but I mean, to provide, the kids what, and the parents don't know what they don't know. And so if you just offer to them, hey, guess what? There's this thing called chess that can teach your kid critical thinking, and watch those numbers explode.
Christina,
Gradually work them from there into competition. Just get them started in classes and then work them into competition. So
Christina, I totally agree. I think that yes, we don't really want to be talking about positive things as much during the pandemic, but it is an opportunity for any player. They could be homeschooled, they could be, at a private school, public school, doesn't matter. Chess is an activity that we need to try to do our best to promote.
And thank you, Christina and Danny. I would like to limit questions to one question per person per topic. And we have time for 2 more questions on this, and then we have to move on.
All right, Jay Stalling.
Quick more housekeeping item, please. Brian Ribnick had his hand up, but if you're trying to find the button for raising your hand, go to your name on the screen. There's an arrow next to your blue, and it'll have a raise hand, or at the bottom right of your screen. So please use that.
Thank you, Elliot.
Right.
Let's go to Brian. We haven't heard from him.
Okay, good evening. The topic of keeping Scholastic kids engaged, it's not really a question, but just a statement. My kids are tremendously excited about the event this weekend for the elementary group. And my middle school and high school kids are a little bit jealous and saying, how about us? So I'd like to encourage that we have something involving those groups as well. And also consideration down the line of having somehow team sensitive type things be included would also help engage the kids. So that's more of a statement than a question. Thank you.
Just 1 minute, please. I want to give you some information that I think is interesting and is appropriate for the discussion. That in a survey that was done just now, this week, 95% of the parents, they want enrichment program for children. 80% of the parents, they want virtual enrichment program. And 34% want in-person classes. So at this point, 80% of the families, they want to do the enrichment component online. There's something important for us to understand.
Thank you, Beatrice. Is
Jay,
that a
Jay
survey
Stahl,
that, Danny, excuse me. Beatrice, is that a survey that was done in your school, Beatrice?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yes, Danny.
Jay Stallings, go ahead.
Yeah, agree totally with Tina, Brian, Beatrice, great comments. And I agree with the team thing. The kids love the team thing. And so matches, we've been having matches with clubs across America and across the world and all levels. I mean, you can say, hey, 500 to 1,000, that's what my team is, or 1,300 to 1,600. And then you just make that match accordingly and tell the kids they can qualify for it. But we are literally using everything we can, like Tina, grabbing every resource possible to engage these kids, whether, it's Kahoot, in every single lesson, or we're, obviously putting Zoom and chess space together and, chess slang. We're just every tool that we can use. And right now is this small window of opportunity where all these kids that are usually saying, oh, sorry, we can't do chess this semester. The kids in baseball, soccer, ballet, whatever. This is our opportunity to come in and grab those kids and bring them into our fold. Thank you.
I see that Richard Williams has his hand up. and I'd like to hear from new people as well. So if Richard, could you please unmute yourself? And
I was stretching. I didn't hit the raise my hand button.
oh, you didn't raise your hand. Okay, well, I saw the icon. All right.
Sunil, I think we're ready to move on. So
Let's move
unless
on
anyone
then.
has any more possible things, I think we're ready to move on to the next topic.
All right, so the next topic is the proposed changes for Scholastic and youth membership. Typically, when we have this meeting at a US Open, we have a workshop and we discuss ADMs that have something to do with that impacts Scholastics, and this is clearly has something to do with Scholastic. So we just wanted to get a sense of the meeting as to what you think. The reason for this these changes is to simplify the structure, the membership structure, because we have so many different categories of memberships. It gets very confusing, and so we looked at this. There was one comment. If you look at the proposed structure, you will notice that the age group from 20 to 24 does not really have a special category, and we've been trying to encourage the college kids to participate. And so this is something that we have brought to the attention of the executive board, and they're certainly willing to consider that. Ryan, would you like to add something to that as a EB member and our liaison?
I cannot unmute myself. Hello.
Uh-oh.
Okay, there we go. I'm unmuted. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, basically my understanding from what I remember like a couple weeks ago, actually months ago when we were putting this together, Alan and Chuck had put the numbers together for us as the finance guys on the board, and they just overlooked an age category and were completely agreeable to just mend it like you all have here on the slide. So it's not a problem. I believe that is going to happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Kim Kramer, you have your hand up? No, okay. So I think this is self-explanatory, really. It simplifies the membership category. The increases are only are minimal. And I just want to get a sense from the people assembled here if you are in favor of this or not. So I'm not sure how to do this, but maybe we can all use
Sunil,
yes?
Are we in this vote, are we including the 20 to 24 category, or are we not? Are we just taking a poll on the 20 plus?
Yes, I would like to include, to make a strong recommendation that we include the 20 to 24 and then take a vote on including the 20 to 24. So the vote will be assuming that that category will be added. So if you are in favor, could you please indicate, raise your hand, press the blue icon and so forth. I thank you. Elliot, you'll need to help me here. I think most people are saying yes.
If you wish to put a reaction, go to the bottom of your screen. There's a reactions button. If you click that, you can put a thumbs up or a cheer. And if you disagree, put a thumbs up to agree. Oh, there's no thumbs down option. So thumbs up or abstain. We don't have some of the other controls that happen in different types of meetings where you have a yes, no option.
Oh,
so
I see.
This is a workaround. Thumb up or leave it blank.
Okay. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's reasonable to assume that we have a majority support for this with the inclusion of a new category. Would I be correct in interpreting it that way? Elliot?
I wasn't able to count quickly enough before the thumbs went down.
Okay. Well, I think that we have a positive vote on this, and we will make that recommendation to the EB accordingly. All right, I don't think this category warrants any questions, so we'll move on. If we have time left at the end, then certainly we'll entertain questions of a general nature or any of the categories already addressed. So let's move on to item number 5 on the agenda.
So item number 5 is a very important one which must be discussed regarding future events, which is simply fair play for online events. So how can we establish a way to make sure that online events are conducted fairly? And I think the first thing that we have to be aware of is deterrence. It is our responsibility to inform the entire Scholastic community of what things can be done. How can we create an atmosphere for them so that they feel, 1, comfortable, and 2, that they understand what is being required of them. So you could discuss things like hopping on a Zoom call while playing. You could do something like have 2 cameras up for your tournament, one being a camera for a portrait view of yourself, and the second camera being you in your playing room, right? You have to be able to inform your tournament or inform them of what to do. So I will leave it to Judith on the education part of this.
So I think the first and foremost step is, again, prevention and inform your players. And obviously, if you are dealing with adults, there's a whole other question, and laying out consequences is a really good deterrence, I feel, and educating about them about the consequences, what they would risk when cheating. But when it comes to Scholastic players, it's not enough to send an email and list the consequences. Parents need to get involved. And I think the key to success to limit the cheating and the fair play violations on online tournaments and online events is to get the parents involved. So I highly suggest everyone, please get your parents, your kids, your students' parents involved, and put the responsibility on them to educate their kids. Let's suggest them to sit down for 5 minutes, watch a fair play video with them. Make sure that their brain, their little developing brain, understands what it means if they violate the fair play agreement, if they cheat online. Because they have developing brains. They might not necessarily understand what a sentence means in an email. Ask the parents to make sure that they understand. And it is my experience, once I ask the parents and parents take this seriously, the number of cheating cases go way down. So I'm very happy to see this, and this is a tested proof. So hopefully you can use this in your events. And then I think I will ask John Rockefeller, who is our newest incoming member on this council, to talk about some of the tools that we have been using in other online events. John?
Thanks. So this past 2 weekends, several of us present here today were TDs at the invitationals. And Sunil in particular was very insistent that we have a very high standard for fair play measures, including not just the platform's logarithms for detecting cheating, but TD presence. So the 2 pictures you see here, well, actually before that, let's just, all players were required to attend for 5 minutes, a Zoom conference. So they were to check, quality control. They were to check in, come in. There were 3 of us there, Judith, Danny, and myself. And we just sat there and went over all of their specs. So was their primary camera tilted down or up so that we could see their faces? Was the secondary camera, you'll see to the side on the slide here on the left, was it in landscape mode rather than portrait mode? Was it able to get a good clear view of the screen as well as the player? So for example, if a player were cheating and looking down in his or her lap, we could see that, right? So we wanted players to have that sense of we are watching you. We can see you. So really the two screens that you see here, the one on the left, that's what we would, each player would have a view of the players like that. And then on the right, that's what we would see when we looked at multiple Zoom screens. And this was primarily, you're seeing images of the kids' primary webcams looking directly in the face. But of course, the problem is this is very labor intensive. So it required about, I think, 230 players, 240 players, about 15 and a half hours of Zoom conferences just to get them set up properly. Other measures we could take is, we have chat on the side so that we could chat with the players and say, hey, we need you to tilt your screen down. We need your screen to get closer. One idea that actually Tina Schweiss had was to rename, as administrators, we had the ability to rename players. And so if we were really trying to get their attention and they weren't paying attention, I probably took this to an extreme, but in all caps, we would, rename them saying, Mary, and then tilt screen down, that kind of thing. So we had a very hands-on approach, but that involved a lot of TD time, and not all tournaments are going to be like that. So that was more the kind of the gold standard approach. And then there would be other approaches that would involve lesser or different degrees of TD involvement or none whatsoever. So it's up to the tournament organizer to decide how the tournament is going to be run, online tournament is going to be run.
I would just like to add one more point about the deterrence and the gold standard here, that all players were actually unmuted for the event, and we had them change their audio settings to have their speaker output be 0 and their microphone be at 100. So what that would do is we could hear all of you on the call if you start speaking, but you can't hear me because I'm speaking right now. And that was sort of what we were trying to do with the audio sense, so we could have an audio inside each of the players' playing locations. So there are those layers, and it's up to each tournament organizer, as John has said, to establish what they think are good protocols and some guidance and how they want to administer their event, just like in over the board chess. How far do you want to take things? That's something that I think every tournament organizer can do for not only Scholastic events, but any event in general. So if we could go to the next slide, please.
And then the next 2 points are really tying into the new chapter 10 that will be up before the delegates to vote on this coming delegates meeting. And we have quite a few members of the online play task force who I had the pleasure working with: Ryan, Mike, David, Brian, and Christina and a few others. So in that chapter 10, rule number 4 lays out the different measures that the TD should do, or TD should be present, right? And how you make sure that the games are clean and no cheating occurs. One of them is to use the platform's live monitoring, monitor the games live as they go and make sure that everything checks out. Or when the games are finished, you do a post-game analysis by either the director of your organizations or hire grandmasters to do this work, or find other third parties, like, for example, Dr. Ken Regan doing amazing work at University of the Buffalo. These are all available resources for you to make sure that after tournaments you do fair play screening, and before, and I emphasize before you submit the tournament for rating, you make sure that everyone played fairly and following the guidelines. I don't know if John and Danny wants to add anything on this.
Yeah, I forgot one thing, Judith, which was in addition to having we're thinking about revising the rule for if we have to do this again next year, or just in general for online play. But it might be a good idea to require not just a US chess membership that is active and current and good standing, but also the platform account is in good standing and active. and another but people can create new accounts if they've had a previous account closed. So a tournament organizer might want to put in a clause that was something that we're considering, which would be, many of these are kids, so you don't want to do a lifetime ban, but you could say if the player must disclose any account within the last 2 years. And of course, if you see more than one account, then that raises the question, why was a previous account closed?
And I'll just finish up with, when we advertise deterrence and you want to tell everyone who's playing in your event that if you decide to violate these things and go into cheating during the event, there will be consequences. And it can be anything that you decide to do. That could be not being allowed to play in your tournaments. That could be going all the way up to potentially filing an ethics complaint. And I think we all need to understand that we want to remove online cheating from our Scholastic players. And I think that that's a vital thing that which we all need to be doing, because sometimes, especially younger players, may not understand the difference between playing a game at home and playing a tournament. And we need to make sure that they understand these differences.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Judith. Thank you, John. Before we move on, I noticed 2 hands are up, and this was Brian Yang and Dwayne Barber. But I would just like to add one thing before I call on them, and that is the main purpose here is to try and make people feel comfortable that all efforts are being made to control possible cheating. And if we achieve that, then I think online chess will thrive. So it's in all our interests to try to do this. And I think best practices will evolve as we go along, and organizers will begin using them more and more. So with that, Brian Yang, I believe you were first.
Hi. Okay. So first, a point of information. What is the establish a watch list on this slide? I guess what's the topic of that?
That was my point, so let me address it, and I didn't have a chance to watch it. So as an organizer, as a practical list, I mean, there are cases where it seems suspicious. Like if I have a 1100 over the board rated Scholastic player, and they are beating 1700 rated over the board players, obviously that raises a little bit of suspicion as an organizer and as a TD. But I don't have any proof. So establish a watch list. As an organizer, I actually keep a list of players who I pay a little bit more attention. And I think them knowing this is also a deterrent factor. So you can use this tool as a deterrent tool and make, help the players maybe not cheap.
Okay. Yeah, so the point I want to get across is to all the other attendees at this conference is that this is not part of the Chapter 10 rules. It's just the organizers, another organizer's way of doing things. Yeah. And also that I just want a point of clarification, I think that's what it's called, that the golden standard actually is not this web monitoring, where we have 2 webcams monitoring. Our Chapter 10, our golden standard is actually having a tournament director at every location. And so this actually came about way back. I think Chess Kid also had this event where, they were supposed to have either a tournament director or a proctor at every location so that they can over the board rate an online tournament. That was old news, but the point is that the proctor was a problem, but the tournament directors are fine. So the idea is the golden standard for online chess is to have a tournament director at every player's playing site. So, for our invitational event, that would require 50 TDs sitting in the same room as the kid. And, you can watch their screen and see, okay, yeah, they're not cheating. I'm watching them, and I'm a certified tournament director as well. So that's the point of clarification.
The organizer to verify those 50 proctors or TDs that they are.
Right, and I think the point was that it has to be a certified tournament director, because a proctor could be just a parent or a friend of a parent or something.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Brian, for the clarification. You're absolutely correct.
Appreciate that. And Dwayne, I believe you've been waiting patiently. Need to unmute yourself, Dwayne? Oh, we have to unmute you.
I unmuted. I asked him to unmute.
Thank you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I was the person who was disrespected, and so was John D. Rockefeller. We were the two people in which this last weekend, two in the Barber and one in the Rockefeller, have been accused of cheating. And with that accusation, every person has their day in court, every person has their opportunity. I would say that what we put together, what all of these wonderful organizers put together, was an exceptional event. It truly was, and I congratulate them. Imagine putting 200 and some people over 2 weekends and coming out with such a spectacular result. I think all of us wondered whether we'd be able to do it. Please allow me to spend a couple of more moments and mention something. One of the things that concerned me was knowing that there could possibly be somebody who would cheat. One of the things also that bothered me was that when I was reading some Facebook comments, one came up that was very clear, and it regarding the national invitationals. Every one of these kids was an experienced player. They were not 1,100. They were not 500. They were 1,900, 2,235. These were experienced players who had gotten the honor of representing their state. So they're not representing themselves. They're not representing their school. So whatever level we hold them to, I believe it needs to be more than the average youngster who's playing in a weekend tournament and touches the wrong piece or whatever. That's what I want to share with you now. I've talked to several people about this, so I'm not going in without some discussion that's already taken place. My statement is as follows. Any child, any youngster who has been accused of and convicted of cheating through the process that they have an opportunity to argue their side, through the ethics committee and through the executive board, any person who has been found to have done that, I believe one of the penalties is that they cannot participate in any national scholastic event, specifically national high school, junior high, elementary grades, junior closed, cadet, world youth, girls closed, and all of the national invitationals that they may be eligible for. I think if that statement is also out there in terms of this is what we are, this is what we believe, especially for these invitational young people, I think we're making a clear statement that you give up your right to play in scholastic chess. Final comment, and it has to do with the state affiliates. Whatever the state affiliates decide regarding this person who has cheated, whatever they decide, I say leave it to the state. If they want their young people to play in scholastic events, that's okay. They can do that. But don't put your name, don't put that name on a nomination form and send it in, because I will vigorously oppose it. I want to have kids who respect each other and respect the system. Also, 2 of the top 3 kids in the Barber were given points added to their score because they had played 2 kids that have been alleged to have cheated. That disrupts all kinds of things when we come to tiebreak and everything else. So that's a great disappointment that we couldn't have fair play that did not impact the top best players that we have. We had an amazing Wiramatri event. I thank Sunil and John Rockefeller for that. I'm certain that you have gotten a little tired from my dialogue, but I had to speak this out because I don't just sponsor one thing, as you know. I'm deeply involved in seeing that in the future, this organization works hard for scholarships. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Very much appreciated. I don't know how you would get the idea that we were tired of listening to you. But moving on. In terms of, I think I see Brian Ribnick had his hand raised. So we entertain one more question on this before we can move on to our next topic. Brian? Brian Ribnick?
He lowered his hand, I
He
believe.
lowered his hand.
Hey,
We
Sunil.
have Tom Langland's hand up.
Sunil.
I don't know when you say Sunil, if you...
Sunil, this is Robbie.
Yes, Robbie, sorry.
I just wanted to, I think it's appropriate that we recognize the CEO of Chess Kid, who is on the call for the purposes of talking about if people have questions about the fair play and the online national or the online elementary championship this Saturday.
Sure, let's do that. Carrie, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. So actually, I'm here to basically answer any questions you have. I like all of the ideas in terms of having cameras and multiple angles. However, over and above that, there needs to be other measures to detect possible fair play violations. And that means using algorithms and cheat detection programs that can help you unmasked, for example, when an 1100 player is playing like a 3000 rated player. Okay, so I'm here to just answer any questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, then please feel free to ask.
Carrie, thank you. What we will do is when we finish the agenda, if there are any more questions, any more time, certainly we will call on you. I see one more hand, that's Tom Langland as a new person. Tom, would you please go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, sir. Obviously I'm one person that also, hates cheating and stuff like that. If more TDs would have been available to have monitored players, would that have helped? And if so, I would be happy to assist in any of that as well. I've, TD'd a whole bunch of tournaments. So if you guys ever need any more help with TDing, just let me know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your offer of help. And we will be evaluating the tournaments as we go along. We are expecting a comprehensive report on it. So we will wait for that report and then we will act accordingly.
Sunil, one more. Yeah, I think we should basically acknowledge the suggestion by the Wayne Barber that anyone who's found cheating, they will be banned from participating in any national scholastic event, and they should not represent the US in any international event. I think we should work on this. Dwayne, it's a very good recommendation. I think we need to start showing some teeth and send a powerful message to these kids that if they do something wrong and we prove that they actually cheated, they cannot continue playing in important tournaments.
Beatrice, I agree. Dwayne's comments were duly noted. And I also happen to agree that the stature of the event should carry different penalties because you're talking about a pool of players who are very much used to competing. It's not the same as somebody who's way down, the line. But all this, I think, will be considered in due course. And but Dwayne, I just want to assure you that your comments have been noted.
Sunil, if I can just offer one more comment on that. When we ran the Arizona Invitationals, we made it, there's the standard line that talks about how, there might be US chess consequences. And we took it a little bit step further in our communications to the students that were playing, that not only that, but it would result in an ethics referral over to the ethics committee. and that it could result in substantial penalties, including the loss of the ability to play for several years. It could affect colleges, things like that. Not that we would get that much into it, but it was to try to drive home the point that cheating is a problem and that there are consequences that go through this. And I think that the stronger the language that's used, and that Judith mentioned earlier about communicating with parents about this kind of thing, that kids will be less likely to cheat.
Robbie, I agree, and your comments are well taken. Definitely, I think possible sanctions should be advertised, and the range of sanctions should be advertised. I believe all of this, will be handled in due course as we move along. We are new territory here, but clearly there has to be a strong deterrent factor. So having said that, let's move on to the last item on the agenda, and then I think we may have a couple of minutes for more questions. National Scholastic Championships online ? So the question is, should a national championship be moved online? For example, the tournament that Chess Kid and Kerry and US Chess are running together, by the way, once again, congratulations on having 2,100 players. That is absolutely awesome, and we are thrilled that you have that number. It doesn't still carry with it a national title. I mean, even if some people may be thinking that it is a national championship, nowhere has it been said that it is a national championship. And so this question, has been discussed, and we see advantages and disadvantages, to this. And so Beatrice and I would like to talk about this. Beatrice, would you like to kick off, please?
All right. Thank you, Sunil. And again, obviously, I'm going to talk about the advantages.
Okay.
But feel free to contribute, by the way, because, well, we all see the disadvantages. We just have been talking about fair play. But basically, what we have right now in the US, we have a scholastic season that goes from October until the end of May, or mid-May, and it ends at the National Scholastics in the spring. And coaches and teachers and the programs, they set up goals and implement and steps to fulfill the goals based on this calendar. So we all know that we need to get ready for December for the K through 12. Then we have the city events. We have the state championships, usually in March. And then in April, May, we have the spring championships. So what happened is, because of the pandemic, all the national scholastics in the spring, they were canceled. So then, but we need to continue this cycle. And my point will be, and again, is that if we create gaps and there are not events that can, that can sort of provide a feeding, it can become part of the system, then it will be difficult to carry on and then later on pick up from there. Because obviously after the online and all this boom and all this, chess playing online, we need to make the transition back to over-the-board chess. And that's not going to be an easy thing to do. So I think that provides an argument in favor of having a national scholastic championship online. That's one. I don't know if anybody else sees another one that could be.
Okay, well, let me present the other side briefly and open it up with some questions. And it's not like Beatrice is pro and I'm against. We're
No.
sharing the work here, that's all. And as Beatrice said, obviously we talked about the disadvantage, and the singular disadvantage is, to what extent, are we going to, this is our flagship events, right? All the national championships are US chess flagship events. And so how easily are you going to give away the title? Are you going to do that if there is if there is a likelihood of cheating. So we talked about that. The more we can stamp that out, then, you know, the more likely it'll be that we could perhaps have a national championship, but maybe not a national championship, but maybe a separate event, maybe a national online championship, but something that we could call a championship. But the word championship, we don't like to bandy around, especially now when we've retreated from indiscriminately using the word championship. We've certainly, you know, we've taken steps as a council to take away the word championship from players who have won under sections. You know, we know that some of the difficulties that raised with different national quote unquote champions running around the country. So we have to be very careful in the word, in the use of the word national championships. So it is not something that is completely closed, but it is something that at the moment, we don't feel that we are in a position to award that title, you know, for an online. So these are some of the discussions that are currently ongoing. And I see a number of hands raised. So let me ask David Hayter first. David, congratulations on your election to the EB, and please take the floor.
Thank you. First, I'm just going to make one quick comment, which is that U.S. Chess, and specifically the Ethics Committee, does not have the bandwidth or the resources necessary to handle all the ethics complaints if all of them were filed. Many of you may know that I work for CCA. I calculated, based on our tournaments, and I extrapolated the data out, if I, using very conservative estimates, if I filed an ethics complaint on every one that we banned, and we are very conservative, I would tie up $1,800 in filing fees and hundreds of TD man hours to file all these ethics complaints. And what I mean by that, you obviously get your filing fee back. Before I got the first $50 back, I would have already filed $1,800 worth of complaints. One of my colleagues thinks the number is 2,600. Now and those are conservative figures. Now that's if we file every one. So that's something to think about. The capability doesn't exist. My question though is to either Dwayne or anyone, the ban on participating in the events, is that anticipated as a lifetime ban? Because it's different. If it's a lifetime ban, it's different for a senior than a fifth grader. You got to think through that. So thank you.
Thank you, David. That is correct. It's none of this has been decided, obviously, but I can tell you that the feeling at the moment is that when it comes to a Scholastic player, there would be 2 levels: an initial sanction and then a stronger sanction at the second offense. But what those are going to be have not been determined at this point.
Sunil, can I add a comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that in April of this year, we hosted the Washington Elementary State Chess Championships online with Chess Kid as the platform. And we debated strongly, this was early days, you could say, of the current situation we are in, whether or not to go forward because of the potential cheating even before things were in place. What outweighed the risks for us was thinking about the many kids who will take it appropriately and good, and what will they miss out for the sake of the handful who will try to take advantage of it. So when we took that into consideration and about our purpose in helping kids, we did do so. And certainly we had some hiccups and we put strong pieces in place, and 9 students out of 1,180 had sanctions applied to them, with all games, you know, canceled, changed, and even some further elements or steps taken. So I just want to add that perspective, because I believe that even in over-the-board play, as we know, we cannot fully eliminate cheating. So I would encourage we say what is necessary to hold a national Scholastic Championships online versus no national championships in Scholastics. And what are we okay with or what are we not okay with? So
thank you, Elliot.
my 2
Yes,
cents.
no, that is that's definitely going to be an ongoing discussion. I notice Alan Losoff, you've had your hand raised. I'd like to recognize you, Alan.
First of all, thanks for the great presentations. I agree pretty much with Sunil's points about going slowly. In fact, 100% with Sunil's points about being careful about calling it a championship. And the other, I think having a separate online championship going forward definitely might be a good idea. But remember, next year, or certainly by the year after, we want to go back to the over the board situation. And I know it's bad for the kids who are young now and won't be eligible, and this is affecting a lot of kids in a lot of ways. But I don't think we want to jump into a thing to fix this year's problem that's going to haunt us for years and years to come.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate your comments. Sophia, you've been very patient also. Please go ahead. Sophia?
Okay, I'm muted now.
Good.
One big disadvantage, and I was very disappointed, is that there is no teams. And that really affected me in community right now in education. We're very much about community, one big community, and teams are essential. They are our project-based learning. That is project-based learning. It's all about a community building, whether you cross curriculum, and nationals is about team. When I first came here, I really did not understand that. And over the last 35 years, I've come to embrace that. Having my team room open to all players that come in, and that they understand that any opponent is welcome in there. And having a Zoom room with a team is essential. And during this pandemic, all my matches have had Zoom, whether we've played Norway, whether we've played London. It's essential to have a Zoom arena so that they can see each other. And I really feel that strongly. Yes, we should take baby steps, and we are going to make mistakes. That comes with doing online. We're going to make a lot of mistakes, and hopefully, as we do in education, we learn from our mistakes. But I do think moving forward, if you decide to have a grade, or next year's spring nationals, which will be super nationals, that you find some way to have teams. I think that is essential. Also, your community needs that. Your coaches need that for their level of income and support. I'm not sure what's going on this weekend. I know that I have a few players playing, but I don't know what the other schools are doing, if they have teams, if they're getting together, or what's happening. I just feel a very big disconnect.
That's a good point. The teams, of course, you and I understand the importance to Scholastic Chess of having teams. So certainly we will factor this in. Thank you, Sophia. Brian Yang, I noticed is that your hand was up from earlier, or
yeah, it's from earlier. It's about the comment from Dwayne.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And so I see that the only remaining hand is Dwayne's, and maybe it is fitting that we go back to you, Dwayne.
The comment I didn't make yet. It's a new comment.
Oh, you didn't make it. Sorry,
yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, it was on the previous slide, not about this topic in general. But
Yeah,
to all the Scholastic Council and committee members that are here, I do want to say that we should definitely watch our scope in terms of what we can do as a Scholastic committee versus the ethics committee. That we shouldn't be taking over what ethics is doing. I mean, yes, we can take suggestions and maybe recommend them, but we shouldn't be the ones that are reviewing the cases and
no, absolutely, Brian, and I think Elliot indicated earlier, maybe it was somebody else, that we don't have really any decision-making authority. We're just simply making.
Well, there was a suggestion that there should be like a lifetime ban from all Scholastic Chess, because you cheated on a national invitationals. And
well, that would not be a decision for us. We can certainly.
Right, I just want to make it clear that it shouldn't be our decision because we're not.
No, not at all, and we certainly do not want to usurp that authority.
Yep.
Dwayne. Mr. Barber, first, while you're getting unmuted, I would like to again thank very much Dwayne Barber and John Rockefeller for everything they've done in supporting these invitational events and lots of other scholastic initiatives as well. Dwayne.
Thank you, Sunil. Especially John D. Rockefeller. I wrote the first Denker regs that came out in 1985. And after doing that for a number of years, I greatly appreciated that John D. stepped forward and said, here, let me help you out. Let me write these regs. And it came out really well. I want to go back to saying that the online, part of the online activity has been built. The, shall we say, the concrete floor before the building is built happened to occur in a surprising way. Here I am sitting and realizing that the high school is not going to take place. And I thought, oh, this is truly sad. And so I jumped on the bandwagon, asked Judith and Danny, hey, can we have a high school senior only competition? And as it turned out very successful, but it gave us all kinds of information and help in order to build the national invitationals. I have already spoken to several people, and I'm happy to say that I will be happy to be the sponsor of that again next year. They are the last scholastic vestige that they can have regardless, and then they're gone off to college. I added one more thing, which I want everybody to keep in mind as we go down the road, the yellow brick road, and that is, I also wanted to have a 1-year extension of membership for these seniors. And that came to fruition, and I'm very pleased because you see, if we don't bridge between elementary and junior high, high school, college, if we don't build those bridges and we lose these young people when they go off to college or whatever, I think we've lost something. We had 90 players. Everybody was excited. And here's the other note. Every single one of those young people got something real out of what happened. And so I actually talked into a couple of other people and I said, hey, let's do the, you know, that,
7 out of 7.
what do you call it, the national invitationals. Let's do the national invitationals also. But in that case, let's offer 2 years to our young people. And the Chess Trust stepped up. I was part of it. US Chess has stepped up. And by building the membership extensions, what we have done is we have kept people into chess. And so I just want to make that point that I will be happy to once again sponsor the, Sunil, relax, take it easy now. Are you ready? The National High School Senior Online Rapids.
Oh,
Now,
get out of here.
You guys can decide if you like that or not. My money's on the table. That's what I've always said. Carol knows I've said that. Everybody else. My money's on the table.
Thank you, Dwayne. You're as bad as John, who's made the call and said, well, Sunil, if you don't agree, it's too bad. Thank you so much, Dwayne. No, you've been extremely generous. I think everybody's recognized how much, you know, you've done in so many different ways, you know, to support scholastics. And thank you for continuing to do that. I see Mike Hoffpower has his hand raised, and I'd like to ask him to speak.
Okay, thanks. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just a couple things quick. First, I want to, you know, applaud the group that put this presentation together. I think it's timely, it's informative, it's thought-provoking, and it sets the path for the types of things that need to be done in the future, so I applaud that. The other thing I want to point out is when it comes to the online play, you know, Chapter 10 is a big part for setting standards and having real rules that directors can enforce, and very solid TD tips, to include the world's longest TD tip. TD tips that give instructions to directors and organizers to help them put together good online tournaments. In addition, US Chess has been working with the vendors that are out there, and I know chesskid.com is on, and their brother chess.com that they're lashed to. Their fair play algorithm has been reviewed and endorsed by the US Chess Federation, and that's a team of statistics experts that come from the US Chess Ratings Committee, who sign non-disclosure agreements and look in detail under the hood at the methods and techniques that chess vendors use to try to make sure that fair play is occurring. And there is another vendor, ICC's letter of endorsement is out. I mean, literally any time, because I just saw online that all 7 executive board members had voted to endorse the ICC fair play method. And it's not about how does chess.coms compare to ICCs or to Lee Chesses or to Chess 24s or to play chess.com. That's not what this is about. Endorsement is simply based on the criteria of, does the methodology have a high probability of detecting the fair play violations? And does it have a low probability of false detections? So that it's all about just those 2 factors right there. So how it's done is relatively irrelevant. It's just what's the output, and is the output deemed by the experts to meet those 2 criteria that I just read. And so far we've got the chess.com/chesskid.com algorithm, or fair play methodology, put it that way. And then now ICC's own fair play methodology. And that letter will be published on the US Chess website shortly, just like the one is already online for chess.com. And I believe I know we're starting discussions with another vendor right now to have their methodology looked at. The team has already been put together, and they're about to crack the hood open on the Chevy here pretty shortly to look underneath it to see what kind of an engine they got that does the fair play, the fair play detection. But again, I applaud the group for this session tonight, and I actually also applaud those of you that attended and contributed to the discussion. And I look forward to another great year of Scholastic Chess in the US Chess Federation. Thanks, Sunil, and thanks, Beatrice.
Thank you so much, Mike. And it's 9:30 now. So before I conclude the meeting, I also want to say that this really came about because of Beatrice's idea, and she was really the one instrumental in putting this together. And I want to personally thank Beatrice for doing this. Beatrice, would you like to say some final words on this?
Thank you, Sunil. I just wanted to, we have a fantastic team, every member of the Scholastic Council and the Scholastic Committee, a great community. I think it's, we will make it through this pandemic stronger than ever, and we will continue. So, but I think we need to continue working together. It has been a very interesting year, a learning year for all of us, and we need to continue working.
Thank you, Beatrice. It's great to see a lot of you. Sorry, I can't say hi to each of you in person. One of these days we'll meet up again. Thank you for taking the time to attend the meeting. I am going to call this meeting adjourned at this moment. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sunil.
Thanks, Sunil.